Hello, everybody, and welcome to 10 Very Big Books, a Malazan read-through podcast. My name is AJ Fileri, and I had a very hard time not going into the intro to my other podcast. With me today is my very best friend, Peter Bond.
Hello. Good morrow.
Okay, and with me as well is the owner of the loudest computer fan in existence, Joshua Baker. How's it going?
That's right. It's the only fan I'll ever need.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Today on the show, we are going to be talking about chapters 4, 5, and 6 of Dust of Dreams. But before we talk about that...
No India, which makes us all sad.
Yeah.
Yes.
But she will be back soon enough. She'll be back next episode, just some scheduling stuff, and it is what it is. So
before we get into talking about the chapters today, I did just want to ask, it's cool outside. The weather is nice. I've got a long sleeve shirt on. What are your guys' go-to drinks for the fall times?
I'll give you an answer. I've been drinking a lot of water because I feel terrible. I believe I've caught a cold. And, maybe if I just drink enough water, it'll help,
Mm-hmm.
I really change my coffee drinks to the mood of the season. So this week I pivoted. It finally got cold and rainy over here. So I've pivoted very hard into just hot coffee and loving life. I go a little bit. It's the beginning of the fall season. We're in the spoopy months, so I go a little teeny dash of pumpkin creamer, non-dairy, of course, because
I thought you were going to say pumpkin spice. Now, AJ, now that our chatter is sufficiently warm and we're feeling all comfortable, and that the audience,
we didn't ask AJ what.
Yeah, jeez, Louise.
Yeah, AJ, what do you drink in the fall?
I mean, I'm kind of just like a black coffee / black Americano kind of person all year round, but we have been making our own pumpkin spice syrup that is so tasty.
Insufferable.
It's delightful, and it's insufferable. I agree.
Is it just like a simple syrup, but you add like the 4 made pumpkin spices to it?
It's a simple syrup with also brown sugar, pumpkin
sense.
spices, and pumpkin.
I did briefly consider never buying pumpkin spice again when I realized it's just like ginger, cinnamon, cloves, and nutmeg.
Yeah.
But then I forgot that I'm insufferable and I only buy whole nutmeg. And so the other week, HR wanted a pumpkin spice latte, and I was just like grating nutmeg over top. And I was like, fuck this, we're buying pumpkin spice pre-made. I'm not doing this.
I love that. That's really good. Also today, as of, I guess, yesterday, I don't exactly know when this dropped.
4 hours ago. 4 hours ago.
4 hours ago. So as of...
It's literally today.
Yeah. Today is October 5th, Wednesday. And as of 4 hours ago, the cover for the next Path to Ascendancy Ian C. Esselmont novel has dropped. And Josh wanted to talk about it.
I do. There are some hot takes on this cover, and I was really happy. I read a quick 3 comments on the Malazan subreddit post on this, and they immediately clarified why I don't like this cover. And look, I get it. All Malazan covers are not chosen by the authors. This is not I'm not coming at any author. Steve has said he gets literally no say in what these things look like. This picture is absolutely impossible to look at because this person is both facing you and facing away.
Yeah.
Okay? I could not put that into words. I could not quantify what I didn't like about the person until someone on Reddit wrote that. I was like, oh, that is what it is. I see his face, but the clothes are folded in a way that only happens when they're on your back. So impossible, makes no sense. Secondly, if this was not an AI generated art, someone definitely made it, and then someone in the publishing house was like, but man, what if we put a fucking compass and a telescope at the bottom? And because they are clearly photoshopped on top.
Sure.
Absolutely just grabbed from an asset folder and thrown into this, and It is driving me nuts. Pete's just seeing this for the first time. Pete, thoughts?
I mean, I don't know. I feel nothing about this. This is unfortunate. This is, in my opinion, unfortunately, where the book cover market has gone for the fantasy novel. And it's like, I'm so much more into kind of lush art where it's a character and there's a weird dragon or there's some weird thing. You know,
well,
Bring back the 80s Mercedes
exactly.
lackey novel covers,
Yes.
please.
Yeah, I enjoy something painterly like that. And listen, it's like, you know, it's totally, in a way, it's not like an artistic, it's like it's all moved by what sells and all these trends. So, you know, it's, you know, I don't have a strong opinion, but I prefer those older covers to most of these books. And, you know, I don't particularly care for this, but
Now,
you know, I don't think it's the worst thing ever. You know,
There was also a small controversy in that, in addition to the release date and cover, a name change was announced for this book. It was
name change was announced a while ago.
Oh, was it? I didn't know that. I have not read any of these books because I'm not allowed to until we finish these 10. Pete, what are your thoughts on A, not calling it the Jahastal anymore, and B, 2 Forge titles in one series?
I do just want to say it's Jahastal, I believe,
Yeah,
not
Josh,
Jahastal.
Could you pronounce that correctly,
Jahastal?
please? I'm very particular about this type of stuff.
So sorry. What would Udonis think of me? Please.
And they're actually not two Forge things in the same series. This is actually in the Path to Ascendancy.
Oh, there are
and-
different things? I just saw it was in the same... I guess someone wrote in the same franchise. Oh, is Forge of Darkness Steve? Did he
Yes.
write Forge of Darkness?
Steve, that's an error.
Well, that's fine. Sorry, that's my error. I thought it was the same series, and I was like, you can't have 2 Forges unless they're all Forges.
Right.
So
Yeah, if you have 2,
No,
you
that's
need to
fine.
have all.
Yeah. Well,
Okay.
I think maybe we'll cover Forge of the High Mage eventually. That's another Esselmon stuff. We haven't touched Path to Ascendancy, though. So.
True. I just wanted to bring this up because I don't know if you know, but Malazan as an original series is finished. So it's not often we get up-to-date news stories that we can cover on our Malazan
piping
podcast.
hot
So
Malazan
really
news.
felt like we needed to jump on this today.
When God is Not Willing came out, I was like, holy shit,
Yeah.
it's time.
Josh, this episode will come out a month from now. So, piping hot at the time, but like ice cold by the time people are
I think
hearing
that's
it.
fine.
Ice
That's
cold.
fine. People love takes a month late. You know?
Yeah, a month. Just give me the same takes.
I
each
don't
month.
watch the Super Bowl until March. Okay, I like to let the hype die down, just enjoy the game for what it is.
What? Is this real?
Absolutely not.
Okay, I was like, man, this is a decision. All right, all that said, let's get into this set of chapters right now. Chapter 4. Kayla thinks about the customs of her people, the Elan, the leadership of the K'chain Shamal, and the Spotted Horse. She puts a bundle of hallucinogenic herbs in her mouth to begin her ride. Sag Chirac overhears Calith's whispered doubts and thinks about the matron and her flawed children. He thinks of Red Mask and whether they were right to put their faith in a human. A K'chain lookout, Garol, telepathically tells Sag Chirac and the other hunters that there are humans incoming that they should go battle with. Gunthmok tells Sag Chirac not to do this and reveals that she has matured more than she has been leading on. She tells Sag Chirac that the matron cannot see past her suffering. On her vision quest, Calith sees an old man with tattoos quenching his hands in sand in front of a giant jade finger. The man tells Calith of the inevitable falling of all people and his intention to wield a great weapon, even though they attempted to kill said weapon. They talk of the reality of Calith's quest, the sides of mortals and gods, and his rust-colored hands. The K'chain Shamal wind up killing all but 2 white-faced Barghast scouts. Sag Chirac gives us a Kel Hunter biology lesson, and Garol and the others head out to face the rest of the Barghast. As Calith's vision fades to a scene of battle, she sees something familiar from Ampelis Rooted, but is unsure whether this is a vision of the past or the future. Hetin thinks about her daughters, Stavi and Story, their relationship to Krupp, and their propensity toward manipulating Tool. She shoos them away and tells Tool that the clan leaders are gathering, but they still have not heard from the South or the Outlands. Hetin tells Tool that the clans need to be reminded why they are here fighting. but Tool does not think he would be any help. He cannot hear the fury of the Barghast gods. She thinks of how Tool has been troubled since becoming war chief. She wishes that Kalava had stayed to help him in this, and his grief over Tak. They talk of the young warrior's bloodlust, the Imas, and she demands he find them an enemy. Torrent feels haunted by the ghost of Tak among the Gadra clan of the white-faced Barghast. He is found by the 2 dogs who had escaped the Kachain Shamal slaughter, and he rides out toward the scene of the battle. On his ride, he thinks about how Tak had shaken his faith in the All and Red Mask, how the Lethari could never be defeated, and how even the Barghast are doomed. He thinks of his duty to the remaining all children, and comes across the butchered Barghast camp. Setak, a young girl who was found among a pack of wolves, thinks about what she is going to tell Kafal. She says she will warn him that death is coming from the skies. Kafal, another white-faced Barghast, thinks about an old run-in with Ganos Perrin. Kafal wakes up Talamandus, and they talk of the Barghast gods. Kafal thinks about Setak's role with the wolf gods, and the Barghast's pursuit of the Grey Swords. Talamandus tells Kafal to send Setak away, but instead, Kafal talks to her about the clans, the green spears in the sky, and finding the right enemy. Setak says the right enemy is peace. In the desert, the snake continues on. Bedal says some words over Visto's body and thinks about the new girl who has joined them, Braideral. She says Braideral reminds her of the Quitters. Sadik thinks that Bedal's words were not just for Visto, but all of the survivors in the snake. He thinks that Bedal wants everyone to forget their past so that everything will feel new when they find it. The snake finds a watering hole, and the locusts attack. Josh, you said in our group chat that you think this chapter was a huge bummer. Was it anything specific, or is it just kind of the whole vibe?
I just think in general, this entire chapter, like the closest thing we get to any kind of lighthearted moments maybe comes from the Kachain Shamal. Like, that's the closest to not depressing. And if the Kachain Shamal hunters are the least depressing part of a chapter, then, like, you know, the vibes are off.
You don't feel a lot of empathy toward these Tyrannosaurus Rex with sword arms?
I mean, look, are they sick? 100%. Do I love learning now that they're also bees? Hell yeah. But like, they
I love
are
all the stuff
also
about the physiology.
The physiology is
like, the
great.
oils and like the glands and stuff.
Yeah, that's like the best part of this whole chapter. But like, would I sit down and share a drink with them? No, because they're inscrutable and would murder me.
Sure.
So
yeah.
Totally disagree. If they wanted to share a glass of wine, let's hang out.
But like, look, if they wanted to, sure. But like, the odds of them wanting to feels pretty low.
Yeah, I don't know.
Pete, I mean, Josh said
up?
that the Kachain Shamal stuff was his favorite stuff, and I have to hard disagree because I think the Caliph Vision stuff was awesome. What did you think about all this
That's my favorite stuff by a mile. It absolutely rules, 100%. And then some of the stuff later on about Caffel and some of the Barghast stuff, you know, that doesn't do a ton for me, but I definitely love the beginning of this chapter with the Kachain Shamal stuff. And then Kalis Vision Quest is absolutely cool, and it's fun that it follows up on like the pale horse thing that's mentioned maybe 2 or 3 chapters ago. And here we really get to see what that means, what that type of spirituality means for her people, and this almost ayahuasca-esque trip she goes on.
Yeah, I thought this was great. I always love seeing Haboric again. I love when he just talks about unknowables or whatever. And also, we're kind of leaning more into the Jade stuff as this chapter goes on, which is ominous, to say the least, I have to say.
Yeah, AJ, what did you like about this Caliph Vision stuff?
Yeah, no, I mean, like I said, I just love seeing Haborik at any time. I loved their short conversation about like, oh, well, this is all hallucination, and him being like, well, yes and no, because it's kind of just like opening your mind up to like the vibrations of the world or whatever, which I just thought was really, really cool and a really neat thing to see, you know, of this culture that she is the only one who is left. I think is cool. That she's not just this like sad tool for the Kachin Shamal. It's like she is her own kind of, you know, she has her own kind of thing, which is nice.
Yeah, it's interesting to see her kind of inhabit her own personality, and we kind of learn more about her outside of that initial meeting,
Right.
which is so like you're in Ampolis rooted, and it's very wrapped up in like, what is the hunger and like what the fuck's going, you know? So it's like, oh, here she is. This is kind of a little bit of her personality.
Yeah, I feel like her POV could have just been used kind of how Tox was. I mean, Tox, we obviously had more baggage and stuff, but kind of how Tox was used in Memories of Ice, where he was kind of at a point just like turned into a camera to like see what's happening with like the matron and the Kachin Shamal and stuff. I could see her whole role in this book being something like that, where it's just like, man, it stinks to be a human amongst all these lizard people. Here is what they are doing and why. So I think it's really nice to actually have her be a POV that is like doing something. I guess I don't know. The implications there are kind of iffy that like Tok didn't do anything, but I like her POV and I like what it's turned into, and I'm curious to see where it goes.
So, Josh, we also see Hetton here, and I would say it's been a really long time since we checked in with this character, and she's definitely at a different point than when we left her at the end of Memories of Ice. So what was your impression seeing where she's at now? She's a mother. She has these kids. She's come to this foreign land with her family and her clan. So what was it like returning to her, and what do you think, how do you feel like she's changed? What do you think made those changes happen?
I feel like back in Memories of Ice, which again, it's a little bit ago, so my memory's not the clearest. I remember Hetton being above all a fun character, you know, like she was this big, bold, brass female character. She was a Barghast female, and she was the only female Barghast that we really got to see that much. And I really liked her character in that book. Although, you know, we I think at the time we were like, maybe she fucks too many men against their wishes. You know, maybe that happens a little too often. And then in this one, it's so weird to see her so serious. You know, it's a very hard character change. And I know that they've gone through a lot of hard stuff, although we do get a lot of like hard exposition in this section where I'm like, oh, I feel like Steve wanted to show us more of this, but like there was no organic way for any of this to be in the other books. So I get why he has to do that. Interesting seeing her with Tool. I like that. And I do fully Tool being like unable to make decisions, very on brand for someone that was, you know, a Talani Mass for, you know, for fucking ever. So I don't blame him there that much. And the reveal that her kids are Krups, pretty good. So
Yeah, I mean, I think she is more serious in a way. I think she has a lot more responsibility now, of course.
Oh yeah.
Not that she didn't have responsibility in Memories of Ice, but obviously, you know, I don't know. What do you think, AJ?
Yeah, no, I agree. I think there's definitely just kind of a more dour tone over all of the Barghast stuff, I think, than there was when we encountered them in Memories of Ice. So I think that's, you know, also goes obviously into these POVs that we see here as well. But like even, you know, starting off this whole section talking about Stavian's story and their like ability to manipulate, you know, Tool and stuff, I think is kind of I don't want to call it goofy, but it's kind of the like goofy Barghast stuff that we had kind of encountered in Memories of Ice. It's like, oh, these people love to fight and they love to fuck. And like, that's kind of been their whole thing. But I think also this kind of speaks to later on in this section where she talks about how Tool becoming war chief has kind of been kind of like a good and bad thing for the Barghast, because he like doesn't hear, she says, hear the fury of their gods or whatever, and he just does not have this like bloodlust that they do. So anytime people want to like fight or battle or whatever and they don't really need to, he's just like, no, we don't have to do that. So I think like this kind of more serious quote unquote tone that we're taking here with these Barghast are because they are kind of like being forced to live closer to a like IMAS way than like the actual, you know, Barghast way that they want to live, you know?
Yeah. I think it's just interesting to see a little more about, I don't know if it's in this chapter or a later chapter. I don't know, maybe this one. There's a lot of exposition in this one. As we're just learning more about what the Barghast are doing here and how they've kind of settled and what that's like.
Yeah. So what they were just chasing the Grey Swords. That was like their whole thing.
Yeah, they were following up the Grey Swords, and then the Grey Swords just got fucking annihilated.
So AJ, we also check in with a few other characters. One of them, do want to talk about Torrent, but we do, speaking about the Barghast, we talk about Cathal, who we have seen before. And he thinks a little bit back about his conversation with Ganos Paran. Did you remember Cathal? Did that conversation stand out to you? What did you think about his emergence into this story?
The name kind of rung a bell, but even when I was reading, when they brought up the conversation with Perrin, I did not and still cannot make a connection to when they talked or really what they talked about. I do think just a bit of a sidetrack. As I was writing the summary, I made a connection that Setok is the young girl who in Reaper's Gale is like the farmer's son's sister. And she like runs away and finds her place among these wolves. This is her, which is wild. Wow. I think that's very, very good and cool.
Good pull, AJ.
Thank you. I honestly, like I said, it didn't come to me until I wrote out the phrase "a young girl who was found by among a pack of wolves." I was like, oh.
Yeah, both Setok and Torrent are kind of bleed overs from the Red Mask All plot line, which. You know, it's kind of funny because we were obviously talking about it, and then we talked about it last week, that a lot of the kind of continuation of that plot line, which does bleed over, all happens in this book, despite at the end of Reaper's Gale, it seeming like, okay, well, that's that. We've wrapped up this whole storyline, you know?
Josh, what did you think about this Cathal stuff? Did you remember? Because you remember characters sometimes.
I just want a quick sidebar. When I was reading Memories of Ice this time, I was reading that scene, and I was like, this comes up later. I remember. We're gonna circle around. I felt pretty good about myself.
Good for you.
Do not really. I remember Talamandus, but I do not remember Cathal pretty much at all. This was Heten's brother, right?
Yeah, it's Heten's brother.
Yeah, there's like a part of me that like, I remember the storyline. I just don't remember it being her brother that is involved with Talamandus. It's not, right? It's someone else.
I think this conversation happens in after they recover the kind of lost Barghast artifacts.
Oh, when they're down, yeah. And Ganis, he like goes under the road or whatever. Yeah.
That's I think they're in one of the ruins of Kapustan.
Yeah, they're in Kapustan. Like it's like below the big temple that had all those shitty mortal god things.
I forget what their name was.
Okay. Yes. Vague
good book,
memories.
Memory Spice.
Good book, Memories of Ice.
Good book.
Finally, time to circle around on this Barghast plotline. I know that you were waiting about what was happening with them.
For real. And then we end off with some real sad shit, Josh.
God damn it.
Kids are dying. Locusts are attacking. I don't even really know what to like prompt with this. Like the snake is happening. How are you feeling?
I just don't know.
Yeah.
This is not a happy series, you know? And at what point as an author are you like, I mean, gotta kill a lot of kids with locusts. I mean, that's what the story needs. And look, everything fucking Steven Erikson has ever written has paid off. So I know there's a payoff for this, but it don't make it easier to read for the first time.
Yeah, Josh, I don't mean to hype you up or anything, but I agree the series is mostly a bummer.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it's funny and fun sometimes, but, you know, it is definitely there's a sort of melancholy, I think, to the series. And I would say this book is probably the most bumming in a sense.
Oh, Peter, as if everyone hasn't told us that on the Discord.
Yeah.
But I have to tell you, so far, I've been reading it and having a fine time. So,
yeah.
But I also think it helps that I know what's going on. I don't know if you know, I've read the books before, so.
What? Yeah, the snake's a bummer. I think it's just such an interesting concept, just like as a thing. Like these are all just like refugee kids who just like ran away and then they just happened to find each other in the desert. And like, I don't know. I mean, there's obviously something so evocative about that image, but it's just like as a concept, I think also really, really interesting. And I am curious where they end up. Like, are we in the wastelands? Like, where are we even? We don't even know, right?
Yeah.
We tried to figure it out. I think we're like southeast of what the map shows us.
I always imagine them in a very abstract gray space, you know?
Yeah, that's kind of what I see is just like a bunch of sand and then sky, and then there's like nothing really around them.
Yeah, like a kind of barren, like a desolate like atmosphere.
Yeah.
And then was that a World of Warcraft pool?
That was a World of Warcraft reference.
Yeah, you tried to say
my gamers out there.
It was you almost said desolate, and AJ was ready to move on. And I was like, no,
Yeah.
Pete said desolace. All right.
Yeah, it slipped it right in there.
Yeah, it's a shitty zone.
It is not very good. The Centaur idea is fun, but it's lacking execution.
Agreed.
Wow. My World of Warcraft knowledge failing me at this moment.
How embarrassing for you, AJ.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then we
someone was kissing girls in high school.
well,
Oh yeah.
and then finally in this chapter, we kind of get a closer view at these, what they had been calling like white leaves or whatever. We realize that they are just horrifying locusts that eat people. How's that doing?
Big Jurassic World Dominion energy.
Big.
Am I right?
Can I tell? Oh, I've been waiting for my
that the
opportunity
sequel?
to talk about this. It's the newest one of this year, AJ. I watched
It's the
it.
third one. It's a locust-based film.
And there is
No way.
absolutely nothing in any trailer to let you know that it is heavily locust inspired. So,
Holy shit.
also, can I tell you, while watching it, there was a big part of me that was like, were you going to release this last year? And then you were like, maybe not. Maybe not during the twice in a generation cicada storm. Maybe we hold off for a year.
Holy shit.
To be fair though, locusts are like pretty scary.
They're fucking terrible.
Very scary,
Yeah,
dude.
there's no to be fair about it. They're fucking awful.
Yeah.
You know, when you think about it, I think locusts are kind of scary.
Yeah.
Actually, locusts? Pretty scary. Let's, before we move on, let's thank the people who have supported us on Patreon.
Thank you to Fran, Travis, Eddie, Chian87, The Hidden Stick, Espen, John. And I did want to just jump in. Thank you to everyone supporting us on Patreon. You have 3 days left to get in on that $1 tier, baby. That's right. Absolutely. Just sneak in there, subscribe for $1, listen to the back catalog, and then get out. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it.
Just put $1 in the jar. Check out that content. See what's that like. Put an ear to the door. You know.
You're making it sound like something illicit's going on. If you back at the $1 tier, you will be able to stay at the $1 tier indefinitely. We will just be delisting it publicly, which means new people will not be able to join at the $1 tier. But if you join now, like Pete said, you get the whole back catalog, you get all the new bonus content.
Just dip in, put $1 in the jar, then leave.
Put $1 in the jar and leave.
Okay?
Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it, okay?
There's also some other changes that came to our Patreon, but you can head on over to our Patreon and read the public post if you would like. And also, I think 2 episodes ago, Pete and I did a little explainer of what was going on. But the most detailed version is on our Patreon. But thank you if you are considering, or if you have, or if you will, or ever have contributed to our Patreon.
What is happening?
I don't know. He just did a big fart.
Yeah,
sound.
okay.
I'm very sick. I'm very out of it. So I really don't have the goods today.
Okay, well, let's move on then. Thank you so much for your support, and we will move on to the rest of these chapters so Pete can go to bed. Chapter 5. Corporal Tar and Cuddle talk about ways to train the Lethari troops they've been put in charge of. Breeze and Janath look on. Breeze talks about how he's uncomfortable that Malazan tactics involve soldiers sometimes taking matters into their own hands. Janath tells him that in Malaz culture, there is a pact between the ruler and the ruled. Abuse that from either direction and all mutual agreements are nullified. Breeze thinks that the Lethari might learn something from these Malazans yet. Tar and Cuddle start the soldiers marching, while they think of what to do with them. The Stariel, Keneb, Blistig, and Quickben await the arrival of Tavor. They are all still shaken from the reading, and aren't sure what their next move will be. Tavor enters with Sin. She is upset about the reading. She tells the group that the army will be marching east through the wastelands, either negotiating or fighting the whole way. Quick Ben tells her that the crippled god has been acting in a defensive posture because he knows what is coming, but that he's failed more than he's succeeded. He says the gods intend to chain the crippled god, this time for good. Quick Ben also says the gods are far from united, and that there will be betrayals. Tavor asks what Shadowthrone and Cotillion's end goal is, and Quick guesses that it's the end to the current pantheon. Sorcery, warrens, all fundamentally changed. Tavor wonders if their goal isn't changing everything, but ending it and starting over. Quick Ben says that Calor has tried that, and the lesson wasn't lost on anyone. Shadowthrone claimed Calor's Warren as the Imperial Warren after it was destroyed. Quick continues, saying that Shadowthrone and Cotillion have scoured dead Warrens and Azath even more than Gothos. Tavor asks about the enemy to the east, and they talk of justice and nature being blind. Quick tells them that the crippled god came down in pieces, but the heart landed in Calance, to the east. The blighted land of the Forkrul Assail. They intend to open Akrost Corvalane to, Quick guesses, deliver justice. In the throne room in Letheris, Breeze talks about his pseudo-murder at the hands of the Errant. Ublala tells Tahul that Karsa Orlong has charged him with gathering an army to destroy the world. Breeze tells Ublala to maybe hold off on that for the time being. Having received word of the Malazan intention to march east, Tahul appoints Breeze to be amongst their escort. Tahul doesn't know what they hope to find in Calance, and Bug requests not to be asked. Bottle, Ebron, and Deadsmell talk of the possible destruction of the Warrens. Bottle thinks that Fiddler helped feed into whatever Akarium was trying to do, and suggests that Akarium was trying to impose a new pattern on the old one. Bottle thinks they should start exploring these possible new paths, so that they overlap better. Sin and Grub are in the Azath, and are talking about Akarium's new pattern. Grub thinks it's broken, and Sin suggests they fix it. Hedge and Fiddler talk about Hedge's unceremonious revival and how they aren't squadmates anymore. Fid suggests Head take up with Gessler's squad in an effort to turn him into a bone hunter. Pretending to be Captain Kindly, Lieutenant Pors orders Cinter and Kissware to shave their heads for being so incompetent as to get captured. They agree, but then go cut the hair off a horse's tail and ask Nep Furrow to put a curse on Kindly. In private, Cinter and Baden Gruck lay in bed. She tells Gruck that he's the only type of soldier you can trust, a reluctant one. Tavor, Quickben, Keneb, Blistig, and Lestara Yil meet with Tahul to discuss their march east. They discuss the Warrens, Ikarium, and taking an escort. Bug is impressed by Quickben's breadth of knowledge. Tavor eventually agrees to take an escort across the wastelands. So, Pete.
So, AJ.
The Malazans are in charge, and they are training the Letheri troops. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, the Malazans are training the Lethari. And there is some talk about this, but I don't know. It just, that doesn't terribly interest me, to be honest.
Josh, what do you think? Did this stuff interest you at all?
Oh, yeah. Love it so much.
Okay.
This is what they call Josh's shit. I just think it's fun. As someone going through an administration degree for teaching, they say you get promoted to the point of incompetency, and that is fully on brand right here for Tar and Cuddle. Two people I could not say are less suited to being in charge of other humans. And I know we won't talk about it later, so just the scene later on when Fiddler comes up and is just like, why have they marched this route 20 times? And they're like, we really thought we'd have a better idea by now. That's comedy gold. 10 out of 10. Loved it.
Yeah.
So
I guess my feeling with this stuff is always like, I don't really know what to make of it, considering I guess I would say a defining feature of many armies, to my understanding, is that there is not a lot of individual choice,
Mm-hmm.
So it kind of just feels like we made up a thing, and I don't really know how to process that in a sense. So
yeah, it is an interesting like difference in leadership styles. Like I fully agree with the Malazans. Like, yeah, I wouldn't want a soldier to listen as I tell them to kill themselves either. Like, makes sense.
yeah, I hear you. I guess I'm like, I guess some part of me is like, I don't really like. It feels like that's a very important piece of context and informs what makes up a government's military force, and that to just wave it away, I don't know what I'm left with is how I feel sometimes about they let the Malazan soldiers do their own thing, and that's what made them great, and I'm like, okay, sure, I don't know, that's always struck me as a little strange,
Sure. What did you think about this intent to march east? Tavorin tells him we're going through the wastelands and we're either going to fight or we're going to talk our way through.
They're going east.
They're going east. Pete, what do you think that's a good idea?
Yeah, I have no comment about that. Josh, do you have any thought about them going east?
Well, I mean, considering the West is the ocean, I guess there's really nothing else they can do,
They could just set up shop.
And look, if I was them, I would. But, sometimes we have to go fight an inscrutable enemy to win a war we don't understand or even possibly want to be a part of, So that's life, ain't it?
What do you think about this, I guess, promise that we're going to see them fight a bunch of Forkroll Assail? What do you think about that?
Well, look. The Malazan novels tell us in book 3 that there's 4 primal races, and we've now fought 3 of them, so like...
Elder races, Josh.
Whatever the fuck you want to call them. I mean, I guess it's about time we kill number 4, so...
Yeah, I don't know. I feel like every time we've seen a Forkroll Assail, I guess that was true with the Kachain Shamal too, though. They're like particularly brutal.
No, dude, the Forkroll Assail are the fucking worst of them.
Yeah.
From what we've seen, like... The one nearly killed Karsa, and the other one had to get killed by the Jaghut sorceress. Is that right? Or no, did the Jaghut sorceress kill someone else in book 5 or whatever? It's book 6, I think. The one that gets out of the doesn't one get out of the graveyard or something, or from that tower? In
You're correct.
Yeah,
I have no idea what you're talking about, but I know what you're talking about in my gut.
Yeah,
and that did happen.
Yeah, so like we've only seen 2, and one killed 3 Toblakai, and the other one had to get like frozen to death by a sorceress. So like they seem pretty sick. And now Pete, question though. I guess the only 2 alive Kachain Shamal we had seen fight were the ones from last book, right? Because the book 3 ones were all undead Kachain Shamal.
That's correct.
So I guess we don't really know how strong alive ones are, other than they killed a shit ton of people last book. So I guess they're relatively strong.
Yeah.
Was that last book or was that 2 books ago?
That was Reaper's Gale. That was 2 books ago.
What was the last book? Oh, right. The last book was all in Darujistan. God damn, these books are confusing.
So we're marching east, AJ, and there's this whole scene where they're kind of like, yo, quick, Ben, what is up? Yeah. And finally, after a long time coming, there's like a bit of a conversation about what the plan might be in some 100-foot high sense, know?
Shadowthrone and Cotillions plan, or like the Empire
just
plan?
Maybe the stakes of what the mission are, in a sense.
Yeah. So
what did you make of all this?
I mean, nothing like very concrete, but it is interesting to think that like, I guess they're trying to destroy Warrens so that they can make Warrens in their own image, or maybe just get rid of it altogether.
I think you're talking about what's happening in the city, right? Not what the army's trying to go do.
No, that's not what the army's trying to do. No,
I was just
also
an element of talking about them, but I think can talk about both, whatever.
Yeah, Shadowthrone and Cotillion, I think their plan is to either change the Warrens or destroy the Warrens and make new ones. Icarium's plan, we think, was to use his body, to make new, Warrens? Or like make new paths for them or something. That's what's happening in the city. That was what like Bottle and Ebron were talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm really, really interested in how much of that, if any, we like really see kind of manifest in this book, because I could kind of just see it like we say it here and then we spend the rest of this book marching east and then we get to Calance and then it's book 10. And then we see all of that stuff kind of, pop off or whatever. That's how I feel about it.
So, Josh, there's also some conversation around the crippled god here.
Mm-hmm.
And kind of speculating about what he's been doing and what might happen to him. What did you make of this kind of them, the way they framed the crippled god and the conflict around him?
It's interesting. I mean, I think we said a few books ago that like the crippled god, when we see him, is like despicable and evil, and then like whenever people talk about him, I almost feel a little bad because like everyone on the face of the earth wants to murder him to death. So like I always feel slightly conflicted, and like I don't think the gods are particularly great either, and I wouldn't just at face value assume they're doing the right thing. So I'm very conflicted when they talk about stuff. Pretty interesting that he came down in pieces. I mean, we have other green shit currently hurtling towards Earth in pieces. Is that another god? I don't know. The book is very unclear what a god even is. So it is very fantasy to say that the heart shard of a god fell in this city and corrupted it. And now we have to go cleanse it. Like, I mean, that is some fantasy shit. So I did like it.
It's good though. I'm excited for it.
It is good.
We also got a new gate name drop. Ocrast Corvalane.
New gate name dropped.
It's a cool one. That's a cool one.
Yeah. It's one that I don't know if is always on the tip of my tongue.
Sure. I do think it's interesting that it ends in lane as well as Starval Demelane does.
Yeah.
Also.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah. So. Thank you. Josh, what do you think about, we get the one army like leader view of like what we're doing here with the Malazans, and then we head to the throne room with Tahal and Bug and Ublala and Breeze and Jenath kind of talking about what their plan is.
I mean, that is my favorite part of this 3 sections that we have watched, that we read for this ep. I think any throne room scene with those 5 people is absolutely peak everything of Malazan. I love them. It's my favorites. And I also really love when Tahal outsmarts people just through sheer fast talk,
Sure.
So that was great. I was in love with the whole thing. So I don't really have anything insightful for it. Just big fan.
Yeah. I loved the Ublala being like, well, Karsa Orlong told me to grab a bunch of Toblakite to end the world. And Breeze is like, maybe hold off for a second.
So good. Yeah. So good.
Asking to pump the brakes on that one exact plan.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can we maybe we put that a second on the list?
Yeah, really good. And I just like Tavor being like just forced, like to go with this plan, even though it like is pretty much exactly what she did not want. It just was great.
Yeah.
So AJ, you mentioned earlier some of the talk about the Warrens in the city. I did want to talk a little bit about Sin and Grub. There has been a lot of, so far in this book, they've kind of returned to the foreground, and I wonder what you feel like is going on with them. Do you have a scent of where that might be going?
I mean, not really. Like, they are just 2 extremely magical children, teens maybe. Sin might be a teen. Grub's definitely still a child, but I don't know. I mean, they're obviously more than they appear to be, but I don't know if I can even guess at what their role is going to be. Like, they said they're going to go fix the pattern, and then they see these like red like spider webs of power or whatever in the Azath before they walk in, and they say it's like knotted, it's like a chaotic knot or something. And I don't know if that's supposed to be like literal chaos or if it's just like, man, look at this knot, that sure is chaotic. So I could see them maybe like turning into pure magic or whatever. Like they just their ending is them turning into, energy, and then they just become a part of the new Warren paths or whatever. But I really have no idea. I'm into it though. I'm big into it. I love this stuff.
Yeah, I'm a Sin fan, so
Peter loves to sin.
Yeah, I've said it before.
And then we get these last couple of scenes in the camp with Hedge talking to Fiddler.
Like that scene a lot.
Yeah, Pete, what did you think about this scene?
I don't know. It's just nice to return to see them and to see the kind of what the conversation around their relationship is actually like. Do you know what I mean? And to just have a moment where it's like, what does that mean for Fiddler? What does that mean for Hedge? And have it be in Fiddler's point of view, I found to be compelling and kind of speak to how Fiddler has changed throughout the books. I mean, Fiddler is probably one of the characters we've followed most throughout it. I think superficially, he is in somewhat a similar position as when we started the series. However, I think, you can tell internally he's changed a lot. And I think that comes out in this scene with Hedge.
Yeah. Josh, did you like this kind of complicated, like, oh, we can't just be best friends again? Like you were dead.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I similar to what Peter, I mean, like Fiddler literally at book 2 was like, all right, I'm going on a whole life journey to discover what it means to not be a bridge burner anymore. And then that's what he's done, He was Strings for like 5 books. It's only like within the last couple that he finally accepted being called Fiddler again, Like he tried to leave that behind him and it keeps coming back. I totally understand why he would be upset about it.
Yeah.
My name is Strings, actually.
Yeah. It was a pretty good name,
I do feel like you could get farther from Fiddler though if you wanted.
Oh.
Like you'd be like, call
AJ,
me Eric. Like,
yeah. No, 100%.
My name's Tony Danza.
So then he sends Hedge to hang out with Gessler, I guess, to like reincorporate or whatever into this kind of whole thing. And then finally here, I mean, we already touched on like the divorce stuff. That's the actual finally. But the last thing that I would like to talk about is Pores pretending to be kindly telling Cinter and Kisware to shave their heads. What did you think about this whole scene, Josh? What did you make of the deceit and also the curse and then also this Bad and Gruck stuff?
The Lieutenant Pores thing is very good. And I also love, oh, hold on. Both cats are in here. This is really throwing me off. I did not expect to see the 2 of them in this room with me.
It's All Hallows Eve, Josh.
Yeah, well, Clyde hates my guts. So anytime he's in the room with me, throws me off. So I did like the Lieutenant Pores being kindly thing. Kindly's such a, I hate him. And which is, I think the point of it, even though he is funny. So I like that scene. I like that he orders himself to do to go like be in a dark room or whatever for a while and just chill out.
Yeah.
That was really great. I also really love that Cinter and Kisware are both like, fuck everything he just said.
Fuck that, actually.
They're fun. And Bad and Grook is the one that's from the same place as them. Yes, that like sort of followed the one of them or whatever. I'm pretty sure I'm right on that.
Yeah, that sounds right. Maybe. I just know he and Cinter are in like a secret relationship.
Are they in a secret relationship or does he just want them to be in a relationship?
I thought that scene took place like in bed. The scene with them.
Maybe I misread it then. Did not.
Or
realize
maybe
that.
I did. Honestly, I don't
remember.
know.
That's whatever. I think they were. But AJ, I think they were laying in their beds, like in the barracks. I think there's like communal, like they were each in a different cot.
Sure.
Could have read it wrong though.
Nah, I mean, whatever. But either way, they have this kind of like semi-tender moment.
Yeah, it's nice.
Yeah, are you like looking forward to seeing what happens in this relationship or what?
Nope.
Yeah.
I'm kind of tired of Malazan relationships because so few of them end in any kind of good way. So like, I'm not going to have any, I won't enjoy them until I know that they don't end in sadness.
Sure. Pete, was there anything else you wanted to touch on in this chapter in these scenes?
I have a really important question I did want to ask.
Yeah.
Have either of you shaved your head? Actually, AJ, I can think of the.
So you know that I have.
I was going to say I could actually imagine with a shaved head in my mind.
Yeah.
I was a big buzzcut kid for quite a long time.
Same.
Mostly, well, because when you're a boy in elementary school, you don't give a shit what you look like. So like, my mom was like, "Josh, don't you love buzz cuts?" And I was like, "Fucking sure, I guess."
Yeah, my dad was like, I don't feel like paying $20 to have him buzz your head, so I bought shears of my own, and I will buzz your head for 3 years.
I love that. No, yeah. I just did that, and then it made it really confusing when I grew my hair out as a 6th grader and I had an afro. Everyone was like, you were fucking blonde when we started buzzing your hair.
Yeah, I met Afro Josh. That's when I met Joshua Baker.
Nice.
Oh, yeah. The best, Josh.
All right, that was all. Let's move on.
Let's move on. Chapter 6. War Leader Gall of the Kundral Burned Tears receives word of his men killing some Bolkando. He realizes they can't flee if they intend to escort Tavor and the Malazans. so he orders his men to march on the capital. As the Greyhelms land their ships, Tanakalian and Runthurvian talk about choosing a new destriant. They talk about the possibility of a Balkondo ambush, and Tanakalian thinks about how they will change the world with war. Tanakalian decides Runthurvian doesn't need to know what he was told by the dying destriant. Chancellor Rava and Conquestor Avalt of the Balkondo receive the news of the burned tiers turning against them and assume they will march into the wastelands. They make a whole bunch of other assumptions that definitely will not end up being bad for them. They intend to ambush the Greyhelms. Tanakalian and Runthurvian show up and call Rava and Avalt out on all their schemes. The snakes leave and Runthurvian calls his men to march, understanding that the burned tiers have most likely turned their attention to the capital. Jan Tovis, also known as Twilight, thinks about how King Tahul will eventually be devoured by the system he is trying to dismantle. Yedin Derig tries to convince his sister not to take the Sheikh from the island, but she tells them that he has left her no choice. Pithy and Brevity talk about how to use the Sheikh March on Lether to their advantage. Pulley and Squish are surprised when Twilight tells them she intends to take the Sheikh back home, to the Dark Shore. Our motley crew continues their way through the desert. They eventually come upon a massive structure in the shape of a dragon. They discover this place to be a city and find a buried entrance. They dig their way through, eventually finding a dozen assassinated Kachane Chamal. A ghost is there too. They do not like spears. So we head now in the beginning half of this chapter to introduce ourselves to some new players in the game. Josh, what do you make about all these people?
First off, War Leader Gall's an OG. All right, we love Gall.
I don't love Gaul. I have to tell you, I've heard the Kundral are wreaking havoc in the south, and just are
sounds like some Kalance propaganda bullshit. Anyway, some Balkondo
I was ready to
propaganda.
Say Balkondo, excuse me.
Yeah. No, we stand Gaul. We stand the Kundral burn tiers. Big Coltane heads, as are we. So,
right.
I said before, I fucking love the Balkondo people so far because they are absolutely dumber than they think they are, which is just such a recurring theme of Malazan. Like, everyone always, all the time, thinks they're the smartest in the room. So
yeah, as I was reading this section, I was like, this is the illustration of all those times Josh is like, everybody thinks that they are smart as shit, and they are actually so stupid.
Yeah, so, I mean, like, I get it. They've been fighting the same 3 other countries for generations and never actually doing anything. So, of course, they've convinced themselves of the same propaganda that they're spewing to their citizens. So, they're just dumb. And I think it's going to be I am really curious if there will be any real fighting. I mean, like, the Greyhelms know they're being led into an area with the potential for a trap, which the Balkondans then themselves admit later. Like, so maybe there's a fight there. I don't know. I'm very curious to see where it all goes. And obviously the Greyhelms, for all their kind of bravado, they're playing a very dangerous game. Like, they are fully cut off from their reinforcements. Like, they have reinforcements on either side, but they are not reachable yet. So
yeah,
this seems like a very, very risky plan from Tavor to send her armies like this. Tavor we didn't talk about it much, but there is the scene last chapter where Tavor like pretty much single-handedly humbles everyone at that table and like says stuff that they don't think she should know. So she does seem to be really informed and make great decisions, but we're gonna see if it pays off. I guess, in a few chapters.
Yeah. Pete, when you first read this stuff, what were you thinking about the Grey Helm Volcando whatnot?
I think I really didn't like it, is my honest answer.
Yeah, I think I'm like super tuned out of this. I listened to this on the way back. I was driving back from my vacation, and I was listening to the audiobook, and I just kept waiting for the next section to happen and not be them, and it just kept being this like
it is a lot of them.
literally like half of the chapter, maybe more. And I was like, man, I am just so tuned out of this. Like the military strategy stuff generally is like stuff I'm not super interested in, and this isn't like and so even like the Rava and a vault, like here are all our silly plans, like even all that stuff I wasn't even like tuned into. It's just like, ugh.
I would say that similar. It was somewhat similar to my experience reading Reaper's Gale, a book that I did not love the first time I read it, and still don't particularly love. But I think I was so eager to learn what was going to happen next with the plot, to follow up on characters I really cared about, that when it came to these scenes, I was like, what the fuck is going on? We got to get out of here. Show me what I'm looking for. It's not this. And I wasn't very open to it. So I do think coming back this time, it has been nice to kind of know, I kind of know what to expect and be able to be like, okay, well, time to like, I'm going to take an interest in this stuff and like, let's see what's going on here. You know?
Yeah.
So I totally relate to what you're saying,
Yeah.
So speaking of plot lines you may or may not be tuned into, are you tuned into the Shake storyline?
Absolutely. Of course. 100%. I love this stuff so much. Something about like every time we go to the Shake in my head, I'm like, it is like really dark and there is a thunderstorm happening. Like that's what I see in my head all the time. And I'm like, this rules. I love this. I love these vibes. Even though it's like 100% not just raining all the time where they are. I thought Twilight's thoughts on Tehol, like not being able to actually make any meaningful change within this system because of how it has, like basically devoured every other person who has sat in that seat, I think is really interesting. And I'm curious if that's some like, I don't know, foreshadowing, if we're supposed to be worried now about Tehol. I mean, because I am now. I'm like, oh, well, I guess maybe he doesn't have as firm a grasp on everything as he thinks, or as I thought he did. And then the Yerenderig stuff, I think, is still just, it's not funny, but every time he comes up, I'm like, oh, here's this fucking idiot again.
Fucking idiot.
Not an idiot. It's just like, I don't know. He's just like doing whatever. He's just kind of doing whatever he wants, And if I were him, I would listen to Twilight because I love and respect her.
I'm just glad that we can you guys, you now understand why I've been a long time Twilight fan.
Yeah. Atraprea Yantovas, also known as Twilight.
Yes.
This POV that, for the record, I was like, oh, we are getting this POV. She's absolutely going to die in like a half a page.
Oh, really?
And then
yeah.
We record that episode and I'm like, Twilight's showing up. Twilight time, baby.
Oh, well, you're talking about your original one. Yeah, because that book had so many random Lithari officers who would have one 100%. Scene and get and absolutely beef it. Yeah.
Well, and that was like, she sees the demon or whatever, like rip apart the boat. Remember?
Yeah.
So it was
and then we
totally thought she was going to die because she was in that. Yeah, you're right.
I think she formally surrenders in another scene. She's only in like 3 scenes of Midnight Tides.
Yeah.
Iconic.
But here she is. I'm a big fan.
She's a queen, literally.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah. Am I right?
Josh, what did you think about this stuff? Maybe the pulley and squish stuff as well, of her being like, yeah, we're going home to the Dark Shore.
Well, I mean, it really sounds like they're going to the Warren of Darkness, right? Which is, I mean, really brings into question a lot of the relationships with the Eater and stuff. I find it very interesting. So,
yeah.
Oh, sorry, no, it would be with Andy. That's right, the Eater were the shadow ones. So.
Yes.
I don't know. Find it very interesting. Don't understand it though, cause that's Malazan, baby.
Yeah. Speaking of not understanding,
what don't you understand?
This next bit, where we're walking through the desert and we get this POV of this ghost that is just following them. Who's this ghost, Josh?
Oh, I don't know. Wait, the ghost that like can't see anything. Yeah, that's like just inhabiting them.
The ghost that is just like around and then realizes at the end of the chapter, like, oh, I'm actually like stuck with them and I can't escape shit. Like the whole time is like, yeah.
This section's like, I feel like if I reread the 2 scenes we've had, I'd probably be able to tell you more than I currently could, but I have
agree.
no interest in doing that.
I agree.
And they all have these weird names or whatever, right? Aren't they going by weird names or not? Or am I thinking of something else?
I don't think so. I mean, they're just going by the like Taxilian and stuff. Like they're just their regular names.
And who are? Oh God, it's Taxilian. It's Ruthus Hanar. Aren't there like 3 other people whose names I don't? I feel like there were 3 people whose names I didn't recognize very well. Or am I wrong on that? I don't have the book nearby.
Not that I remember, but like I said, I didn't really grab onto a lot. There's Sheb.
Yeah. See these names. Who are these people? If we met them in previous books,
Asane, Nappet.
If we met these people in a previous book, I have absolutely no memory of who they are.
Yeah,
That's what I was trying to think of.
There's also bits where it's like, oh, we have a lantern now. And like, and the ghost is like, I don't remember them having this stuff.
Yes. So 100% it's like either the ghost can't comprehend reality or they are dead and in some warren where like material does not really count and they can just have shit. And it's so weird.
The only other time we've seen something like this something like that happen, and I'm now just making this connection in media res, is when Hedge was like half alive.
Exactly. And he just pulled out his fucking, he was like, I wish I had, this bomb.
Right.
And he did.
Yeah. So I think they are ghosts. I think that is where I'm going to land on it, but
I think there's a really strong possibility they're ghosts.
I just don't know. Pete, did you connect with this stuff, or are you connecting with it more now? Like, what is your relationship with these kind of this crew and stuff?
I think this falls into what I made that similar comment with, but I agree that unlike some other, but I think even with some of that other stuff, I do think I'm grasping more onto the Balcondo stuff. I'm enjoying that. I'm enjoying some of the others, the snake stuff, which I didn't really tune into that hard the first time around. This is still leaving me a little bit out in the dry. You know, I do find it, I'm struggling to find a way in, I would say.
Yeah. But hey, there's a giant dragon city, so that's pretty cool.
Pretty sick.
But also,
I've always said I wish more cities were built in the shape of dragons.
You know what? I agree, Josh. There's a place, I don't know if this is a spoiler for you, Josh, but there's a place in Elden Ring where you can just come across a huge ass dragon that has basically become part of a city.
Oh.
And you can like walk up it and stuff. It's sick as shit.
It's okay, there's no spoilers. I'm never going to finish it, so.
I'm sorry to say, AJ, unless you're talking about World of Warcraft, it's not allowed on this show.
Oh, sorry.
That's true.
Sorry, we can't all be elite gamers. But, I mean, as far as these chapters go, I think that's kind of all I got for this one.
It's going to wrap us up and bring us towards part 2, Eater of Diamonds and Gems. Josh, do you have any guesses about what might happen in part 2 of Dust of Dreams?
What was it called? Of Diamonds and Gems?
Eaters of Diamonds and Gems.
I think there could possibly be some conflict between the Barghast and the Kachin Shamal, but I also could easily see the Kachin Shamal just going elsewhere. And I think the Malazan army will set out, but I do not think they will reach Bakondo in this next book. I think it will take them longer, and I think the Grey Helms will have a conflict with the Bakondoans. There's my 3 predictions.
AJ?
Yeah, I think Josh is right that we're not gonna run into the Balcondo with the Malazans anytime soon. I don't know. I'm like really hyped up on all the prep stuff that we did in this first book with the deck reading and the, kind of revealing what Kalance is and kind of maybe guessing what A, Shadowthrone and Cotillion were up to, also B, what Icarium kind of was also up to. Like, I think all of this stuff is like feels really revelatory to me, but I really don't think any of that is going to manifest in a meaningful way until book 10. So I honestly, I don't know. I think maybe we'll get introduced to like another faction. Maybe I think we're going to get more Torrent stuff. I think he's going to have more stuff. But really what I'm looking forward to, I think, is some more Kalana scenes, just to see what she's up to and what it's like being the only Elan left. And then in my dreams, Haborik shows up and we follow Haborik for 1,000 pages.
Would
like
fucking
that.
kill for any Haborik stuff.
Yeah, I love Haborik
So I could understand anything.
Yeah. But yeah, so like I said, I don't know. I think my answer when you ask this question usually is I don't know. And that is where I stand here as well.
All right, everyone. Well, thank you for tuning into our show. As always, next time we will be back. Hopefully, I won't have a cold, and hopefully, India will be with us.
Yes. Just a reminder, for those of you who might skip the patron announcements in the middle of the episode, shame on you, first of all. You have 3 days to back at the $1 tier before we remove the $1 tier.
Just get in there. Put $1 in the bucket.
If you become a patron at the $1 tier before November 1st, you will be able to stay at that tier indefinitely. But after November 1st, we will be getting rid of the $1 tier, and the $3 tier will be the lowest you will be able to support us at. Patreon. But that's all that we have for you today. We'll be back in 2 weeks, and I will be back in just a second doing my credit stuff. So when I say come, you say passion. Come.
Passion.
Hello, everybody. Producer AJ here, and I've had 2 coffees today. Thank you so very much for listening to this episode of the podcast. One final reminder about the changes to the show this season. Number 1, we are on YouTube now. Tell your podcatcher averse friends about it. Number 2, please fill out the live event interest survey if you haven't already. And number 3, if you're interested in the changes coming to our Patreon coming November 1st, please read the public Patreon post linked below. Thank you. If you'd like to give us your thoughts or feelings about this or any of our episodes, you can always email us 10verybigbooks@gmail.com, tweet us at 10verybigbooks, or you can head on over to Discord, bit.ly/VBB Discord. That's capital V, capital B, capital B, capital D, Discord. That link will also be in our show notes. Thank you to our wonderful patrons over on Patreon. If you'd like to financially support the show, you can head on over to patreon.com/10verybigbooks. That link also in the show notes. And as always, thank you so very much to Dan Geserick for making our spectacular cover art. You can follow him on Twitter at @A_W_DanG for the hottest midterm election text messaging campaign takes. Thank you as well to resident Instagram reel hater Scout Wilkinson for the special art she will be providing for this season. Keep an eye out. You can follow her at twitter.com/humblegoat. And of course, the wonderful music in today's episode, including the remixed intro and outro track, is by the one, the only Amaranthan from his album Simulant Rain, which you can find along with his other music on bandcamp.com. Links to their pages will be in the show notes, and 10 Very Big Books will be back in 2 weeks on November 11th, reading Dust of Dreams, chapters 7 and 8. I'll talk to you then, and thank you so much for listening.
Can I just say, I forgot Maradon was in Deathless, and that fucking dungeon, that they didn't, there was no theme. They were like,
Maradon sucks.
It was a bad dungeon, and I ran it.
I remember one time I trekked all the way out there in vanilla, and it's like, the whole dungeon sucked, and I got nothing out of it.
No, yeah, and I remember running it a billion times because like it's that leveling part of WoW where there was nothing to do but dungeons.
There's no quest. It's like there's one quest in this zone.
Yeah.
Come back 3 levels later, you can get another one.
We talked about this very recently, Peter.
It's because unfortunately
we talked about Sunken Temple. That's what it was. Yeah,
we were complaining about Sunken Temple. That's a better dungeon. It at least has a cooler theme.
Yeah,
it sucks in many ways, but it is cool atmospherically.
There's like a cool green dragon you kill or something in that one.
Yeah. I think it's like the spirit of Hakar.
Yeah, you're right.
So,
AJ, I noticed you're weirdly silent during this.
Well, no, so I didn't do a lot of dungeon running when I was playing WoW. I ran
you forgot you were a battle. You were a PvP guy.
Oh, no, AJ,
just real into Alterac Valley.
Always doing Arathi.
No, I just was just like too anxious to ever be like LFG this dungeon. Like I wouldn't like. So
well, plus that was like before all the LFG systems.
Yes.
And I have to tell you, that always kind of sucked. It was a mixture of like people being super rude to you, and then like it being like, oh, this is kind of fun. I like met some people and we did a thing.
Yeah.
You know?
When they made the one that was just like you could just click, I'm looking for this dungeon, find 4 people, hit add on all 4, and be like, all right, meet me there in 10. Like that was the dream. The best.
Not like I'm running around.
Yeah.
Barons being like Wailing Caverns? Question mark.
Slash general. I'm just gonna hit Control V to my 20,000 word post I wrote and copied earlier.